Welcome, soul visionaries and potential soul visionaries. I am your host, Sherrod Cohen, and you are now rocking with the Soul Vision Powercast. You know that place where we keep it unfiltered and raw. We talk about anything from porn to politics. We'll even talk about that shit you might have heard or even saw. Today, we're going to talk about the 15 signs of emotional immaturity in a woman. Let's kick it. Today, we're talking about emotional maturity, immaturity in a woman. 15 signs of it. Now, we're going to skip through the fluff and we're just going to jump right into this. What is emotional immaturity? Immaturity can be physical, mental, and even social. There are so many ways we can be underdeveloped and lack maturity. Emotional immaturity is a category all its own. Now, when we're emotionally immature, we find it difficult to express and regulate our emotions. Rather than being in control of our emotions are in control of us. They're the scapegoat for our behaviors and a key sign of emotional immaturity. While it's easy to judge, we've all been there. We have to be immature before we develop into maturity. Think about that. Consider a time when our lack of knowledge, understanding, and growth impacted the way we behave. It's cringeworthy, is it not? We all have those moments. And the woman of the article says she's no exception. But now, yeah, we've all been there. But when you reach a certain damn age, when you're in your 30s and your 40s, this shit should not even be an issue. Communication should be one of those things that is second nature. Now, I ain't saying talking. I said communicating. There's a difference. People talk to each other or overtalk one another. But when you communicate, one person speaks and the next person listens, and then it's reciprocated. Now, let's jump off into those 15 signs of immaturity, emotional immaturity. Now, number one, this is emotional immaturity in a woman. She shows her feelings rather than talks about them. One of the signs of emotional immaturity in a woman is she's really good at showing her emotions. The only thing is she's not so good at communicating directly about them. Instead, she favors passive aggressive communication, the silent treatment, slam doors, and glares from across the room. She's the woman who sighs heavily instead of simply stating that she's disappointed and why. Her behavior is characterized by reacting rather than responding to the world around her. She struggles with articulating her emotions directly, or she doesn't even try. Now, I'm going to put another link to my video, 11 passive-aggressive behaviors, down in the description as well. And when we talk about passive-aggressive behavior is a pattern of indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them. There's a disconnect between what a person who exhibits passive-aggressive behavior says and what he or she does. And I've dealt with a lot of passive-aggressive, individuals, and then they they hide behind that shit by coming off extra sweet, extra nice. Oh, I would never do this and that and the other. But trust me, when it gets down to it, they don't fight you directly, but they will fight you, indirectly through things that they can use against you to harm you or whatever, or prevent you from doing the thing. Now, number two, she prefers to cut and run rather than handle stress. Emotional immaturity can also come in another form. The woman who would rather break up than figure out how to make up. She much rather cut and run than figure out how to handle stress another way. When complications come along, she's out. It's easy to make judgments here, but sometimes this behavior has more to do with coping skills than anything else, or rather the lack of coping skills. Often the woman who cannot handle stress has limited ways of coping with it. She's not emotionally capable of handling the stressors in her life, although she could develop this capacity. She may be doing the best she can for her level of growth in that moment. Now, this article is written by a woman, so, I love reading these things, especially when women write them. But I'm gonna give my view of it. Now, see, she's saying that people aren't able to cope with the stresses of life. They lack coping skills and this and that and the other. But see, people can cope with whatever they want to cope with, because you go to work every day, do not like that job, and then what do? You put up with that shit anyway, because you know that these things are needed. If you wanted to, you could do a relationship the same way. You could say, you know what? I know we're going through this thing here, but I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have that hard talk. I'm going to communicate with this individual, even though I'm uncomfortable. People choose not to be able to cope with a lot of things. Number 3, she does not compromise. Does not. Everything got to be her way. Emotionally immature women don't compromise. They think that sacrifices should be made to accommodate them. They may even have a hard time putting themselves in another person's shoes at all. That's why, empathetic listening is a big thing too. Look that up. Empathetic listening. This my way or the highway attitude can damage relationships. It can end romantic relationships and friendships alike. The one-sided nature of a relationship with an emotionally immature woman will take its toll. Number 4, not 3, 4. Number 4, she feels entitled. If you've ever met a Karen, and we got some of those in the black community, man, let me tell you. We have plenty of those. A lot of women in the black community feel entitled to having this, that, and the other, because you have a lot of pandering ass fools out here saying a woman deserves this just simply because she's a woman. She's not required to treat you right or anything of that nature. She just has to simply be a woman. If you've ever met a Karen, you likely recognize the signs of emotional immaturity. The set of behaviors our society has named Karen include weaponized privilege and a sense of entitlement. She thinks the world and everyone in it owes her something. Does that sound familiar? If you've ever met a child, you might recognize this attitude. Their perception is that the world revolves around them, and when things don't go their way, they assume it's unfair. Their entitlement creeps into all their interactions because they still have the immature mentality of childhood. Number 5, she demands attention. Another common red flag a woman is emotional immature is she demands attention rather than asking for it. She's the partner who doesn't want you to spend time with friends or family. The person who expects your friends to drop everything to be there for her. She's the person who expects her friends to drop everything to be there for her at any hour. She doesn't ask for what she wants. She demands and expects it. If her verbal demands fail, she'll switch to other ways of demanding attention with her appearance and behavior. She will not be ignored. This petty Betty behavior might seem annoying, but it's a sign that her emotions are in the driver's seat and she's yet to learn how to manage them. I've dealt with a couple of those, it's just, whatever. She takes everything personally. That's number 6, everything personally. One of the main signs of emotional immaturity in a woman is she takes other people's behaviors personally. The emotionally immature woman assumes every action and reaction is in direct response to her presence. The bad attitude of the acquaintance she ran into at the store is attributed to a personal dislike rather than the other person being in a bad mood or in a hurry. The romantic relationship that didn't work out must be due to some deficiency in her character and in her ability to choose good partners, not an honest effort that simply ended with the realization they were incompatible. Number 7, her self-worth is dependent on a relationship. A woman who is emotionally immature continues to take the temperature of her relationships and judges her self-worth accordingly. A partner's bad mood can wreck her own and make her feel inadequate. A partner who leaves her is evidence of her bad choices and terrible judgment. It could be. Now, that could be actually true. She could be her terrible judgment and bad choices, but let's keep going. It's not just that she takes it all personally, and she does. It's that she assumes everything that happens says something about her worth and value as a human being. Her confidence can be wrecked not just by rejection, but by the perception of it. She overreacts. Man, how many videos do we have to look at on social media where you're seeing woman after woman overreacting? Man, one of the worst signs of emotional immaturity in a woman is she often overreacts. In emotional situations, they react rather than respond because they are not in control. They haven't yet learned to regulate their emotions or find healthy outlets. Instead, their feelings build until they break. The break usually looks more like an explosion. Dating an emotionally immature woman can be exhausting because of the ups and downs of her feelings. The talk this minute, silence this minute. Talk this minute, silence. Any little thing is just taken out of context. Trust me, been there, done that. Every little situation isn't so little when dealing with someone stuck in an immature emotional state. Number nine. She gets defensive when confronted. Emotional immaturity also comes out when she's confronted about her behaviors. You'll recognize her immediate defensiveness. Because she's uncomfortable, she may try to direct the blame to you or find a way to shift the attention away from her feelings of humiliation, rejection, or disappointment. Never wrong. Never wrong. Or if you find a way to convince them that they were wrong about something, they'll find a way to justify their actions through blaming somebody else. That wasn't written there. That's just my experience. Because she hasn't learned to articulate her feelings, it's easier to react badly to any confrontation, no matter how gentle. She's immediately on the defensive and likely hasn't even heard what's said before her mind fills in the blanks with her emotions. Number 10. She's critical and calls names. The emotionally immature woman also engages in name-calling behavior and can be critical of everyone around her. She expects perfections in others and is often let down. She's just as hard on herself, even if it doesn't always show it. The constant criticism erodes her relationships. It's not that she's a mean person necessarily. She's just incapable of expressing her feelings and communicating effectively about them. Instead, she resorts to childish behavior. Got to be careful of individuals that want to micromanage you, that want to, everything cannot go according to plan. Sometimes you just got to learn to adapt to, ever-changing situations. Things that we can control them. Things that we can't control, we have to adapt to them. Now, number 11, she has a history of high drama relationships. You'll notice that emotionally immature people don't just have a history of bad relationships, they have a history of high drama. It's not just in their romantic relationships either. Their family relationships and friendships are equally filled with conflict. Every story she recounts of drama shows the evidence of her lack of emotional maturity. She hasn't learned to manage conflict, to communicate calmly, or to address her feelings. She's just learned to react in ways that she likely saw modeled growing up. Number 12. Oh my God, hold on. I'm gonna have to take a sip on this because this one right here, I've dealt with this more times than not. I swear to you. I swear for God. I done dealt with this one. Did I say I swear for God I done dealt with this one? Number 12. She can't admit to mistakes and won't apologize for them. Man, I swear, man, and if she does admit, she'll probably catch some type of virus or something, or she'll fall down and have a seizure, because admitting mistakes or admitting that they were wrong is not in their DNA. Emotionally immature people have a hard time admitting they made a mistake, and an even harder time apologizing for their behavior. Let me look over my shoulder, because I don't know, man. Those kind of people can just creep up on you, man. And anyway, in fact, if you can get an apology at all, it will be the kind that avoids responsibility and actually makes their behavior someone else's fault. You will notice that the emotionally immature woman in your life is never wrong, at least not according to her. She'll shut down or explode before she'll admit she screwed up. She hasn't yet learned how to own up to her behavior and make amends for her mistakes. And like I said, the black community is rife with women that will not hold themselves accountable for their actions. Everything is the man's fault, the man's fault, the man's fault. I'm here to tell you that, hey, in the black community, black men and women have played a part in the demise of our community in more ways than one. So we all got to take blame for all that's going on in our community. And if we could ever get it back going the way we want it to go, we could all take credit for it. But we first have to admit there's something wrong, and not just with men and not just with women. It's both sides, but women find it hard to really swallow that blame. Number 13, she's codependent, not interdependent. An emotionally immature woman will also find herself often in codependent rather than interdependent relationships. Because she defines her worth by her relationship, she's learned to develop unhealthy bonds with little space communication or healthy boundaries. She hasn't yet learned that interdependent relationships are the goal. She wants to be one half of a couple that does everything together and can't live without each other. And she doesn't understand that healthy relationships can be secure and still have space, boundaries, separate interests, and the desire for each other without the need of the other person to survive. And then, a lot of times women will say, hey, I'm not trying to rush you, but they're rushing you, to do whatever it is they want to do, whether deepen the relationship, take the garbage out, or whatever. You got to be careful about this. And a lot of people do not. They've been fed the word independent for so long. A lot of women have not learned or even heard about interdependent. Y'all can do y'all thing, but y'all do it in such a way that it's conducive for the whole team or whatnot. We might do things on the outside of each other, but man, when it comes down to it, we're still a team. Boundaries. You got to have those healthy boundaries too, because without those, man, life is a battlefield. Number 14, she holds a grudge. Oh my God, hold on. I got to take another sip of this joint right here. Man, let me tell you. I done been through number 14. Those grudges. Man, grudges. It's unsurprising that a woman who is emotionally immature is a champion grudge holder. You know what? I'm going to read that line over again. It's unsurprising that a woman who is emotionally immature is a champion grudge holder. She doesn't yet see the value in forgiving, and she's never seen the benefit of forgetting either. Instead, she is likely to bring up past conflict in every single new one. And if you are in any way, shape, or form trying to rekindle an old relationship with someone, you must forget the past. Everything can't go back to what the past was, because if you keep doing that, you're going to end up in the same place where you ended up in your past relationships. Every relationship has to start over anew. It has to be a clean slate. You got to wipe that away. So all the expectations of, just coming in where you left off from the last one, get rid of those, because where y'all left off last time was in a breakup. You feel me? So she just won't let go. She may see this quality as realistic or even acknowledge that it's cynical. And she may not be aware that it's also a sign of emotional immaturity. Now, the last one, number 15. She isn't self-aware. She isn't self-aware. One of the most common signs of emotional immaturity in a woman is in her mind. Everyone else is always the problem. Never her. Never. Capital N-E-V-E-R. Never. Never. She's not self-aware enough to understand her patterns or why other people perceive her the way they do. She isn't growing because she hasn't yet seen that the person who needs to change is herself. Of course, the same is true of all of us. We cannot control others. The only way to create change is to change ourselves. The emotionally mature person knows this already and has done the work. The emotionally immature person never will, not until they look for their own patterns rather than looking for a scapegoat. Now, what to do about emotional immaturity in relationships? Evaluate if the relationship is a good fit. It's not impossible to have a relationship with a person who is emotionally immature, but it's important to ask yourself if the relationship is a good fit, were it not for that one factor. Sometimes we're trying to make a bad fit work rather than acknowledging that we simply aren't compatible. And that's cool too. A lot of people, man, they like the outside package of an individual, but the inner workings, man, they really don't like. So they spend a lot of time trying to get a person to change and to conform to what they want them to be. And when you try that, man, for every action, there's an equal reaction. It's going to be some head butting, baby, bed butting. Now, establish boundaries in a relationship. Healthy relationships require boundaries. If you're in a partnership or even friendship with someone who isn't emotionally mature, you will have to be the one to set the boundaries and stick to them. It won't be easy, but it could initiate positive change in the relationship. Embrace open communication about individual and relationship needs. Sometimes you will need to model emotional maturity by openly communicating about your individual needs as well as your relational ones. If you can't be vulnerable and emotionally mature, it's hard to criticize the other person for having the same problem. Skip the criticism and start talking about what you like the relationship to look like and what may need to change for that to happen. Come up with solutions you can work on together, not just a list of problems they need to address. Practice patience. Change isn't easy. Don't expect someone who is emotionally immature to grow up overnight. Be kind and patient. It's hard to change. It's even harder when it's embarrassing to admit that you need to do it. And when a person reaches a certain age, man, changing, changing for a lot of people is hard. Change is difficult. Change means the death of something. Something has to die in order for a person to change. And not a physical death, but an emotional and a spiritual, a mental death has to take place. You got to get rid of that other person that was on the inside feeding you all the bullshit, in order that was stopping you from changing. Keep in mind that early childhood factors and even socioeconomic status could play a role in their emotional education. It doesn't mean they aren't a good person or a good partner. It just means she hasn't yet learned how to regulate and manage her emotions. Now, y'all can consider couples counseling. Be willing to go to couples counseling. I know you think it's her problem, but it's not. It's a relationship problem the moment it starts damaging your connection with one another. Show up ready to do the work because you might learn a thing or two about yourself that needs changing too. Emotionally immature women are everywhere. So are emotionally immature men and non-binary individuals. They are everywhere. Pop culture is permeated with examples of people who built careers off their immaturity. Just look at almost every reality star out there. It's more entertaining to watch a drama unfold than to see people calmly talking about their feelings and taking responsibility for them. Yet, that's just what we have to do if we want to become emotionally mature. And then even when you go to that counselor, vet that counselor, because a lot of counselors have their own bullshit that they got going on in their personal lives as well. You just can't automatically think that somebody's a therapist, somebody's a counselor, and they got their shit together. A lot of them don't have their shit together too. So vet that counselor, vet that therapist, vet them really good, because you want somebody that's going to help you, that's not suffering through the same things you're suffering through. You feel me? And it says we need to nurture the hurt inner child, not lead with their reaction. First comes awareness, then it's time to do the work to build emotional strength, resilience, and finally maturity. It's easy to recognize the immaturity of others, but can you spot your own? So basically all I'm saying is, when it comes to emotional immaturity in women, yes, I know somebody's gonna look at this video. What about men? That's probably part of emotional immaturity right there. Everything is not about a man. This is about the woman this time. So when you are a woman and you can't bear to hear people tell you about yourselves, I mean, that should have you thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because I've dealt with a lot of women that, they could always tell me what I've done wrong, but then when it was time for me to fire back and say, yo, well, this is all of a sudden, oh, no, that's not how that was. That's not what I meant, and I'm a true believer in your perception, my intention, meaning you might have perceived my actions a certain way, but I may not have intended for my actions to be perceived that way. That might not, if I offended you, that might have not been my intention to offend you with what I did. But we have to, we have to hold ourselves at a higher standard. We got to hold ourselves accountable for our bullshit. We got to own our bullshit. And a lot of times in our society, we preach to women, oh no, it's never your fault. It's never your fault. It's never your fault. Young ladies, y'all have to stop listening to men that tells you nothing is your fault, because they're damaging you long term. Yo, I like to thank all you folks that stop in, leave comments or whatever. Thank you for, no matter how long you watch the video, I appreciate it. I would love for you to watch it from beginning to end. If you don't, hey, that's fine. Just thank you for stopping through. Hey, if you like it, hit the like button. If you're not a soul visionary, I need for y'all to subscribe. Let's try to build these numbers up. They're relatively low right now, but hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. And if you liked it, you subscribed, hey man, let's share the content to folks, man, if you think that somebody out there may need to hear what I've just said. Peace.